Welcome back to Brain Skill Set's Excel tutorial series. In today's session, we'll continue our exploration of data management and analysis, focusing on advanced techniques of pivot tables, including conducting pivot table analysis, customizing pivot tables, and using slicers for interactive filtering. These skills are crucial for anyone working with large data sets in Excel, whether you're a beginner or an experienced user looking to enhance your data analysis capabilities. As we already covered creating pivot table in our last video, we will touch on them very quickly in this lesson and then dive deeper into its other capabilities. In order to create a pivot table, we will first need to select the range that we want to convert into the pivot table. Alternatively, we could just select any cell in the range, and once we click on the Pivot Tables button under the Insert tab, Excel will automatically recognize the data range and select it, although we will still need to check if Excel selected the data range correctly. After checking, I see that the data range is selected correctly, so I will now choose to create the pivot table on a new sheet. Now I will move total sales into the values area, date into the rows area, and product into the columns area, as I want to see total sales per product for each date. After creating the pivot table, now we have entered the realm of in-depth data analysis and customization. Now, as I am looking at the headers, I see that instead of dates and products as headers, Excel wrote row labels and column labels respectively. I want to change them so that Excel displays the actual header names. For this, I will select any cell in the pivot table dataset. Then go to the Design tab, and under the Layout section, click on Report Layout. Next, in the drop-down menu, I will choose Show in Outline Form. As a result, Excel shows the actual header names that I wanted to be displayed right from the beginning. I can also see that numbers are not formatted to my liking, so the next thing for me would be to change the number format. In the Values area, I will click on Sum of Total Sales and then choose Value Field Settings from the menu. Then I will click on Number Format. In the category, I will choose Number, and from Number Options, I will choose the format of my liking. Next, let's play a little bit more with the Values area and see what we can make of it. Instead of showing the sum of total sales, I want to see what other options I have. For this, again, I will click on Sum of Total Sales, and from the menu, choose Value Field Settings. As the Value Field Settings opens, I can see that there are many ways I can summarize the value field by. Let's go over some of the options that are most frequently used. The very first option is the sum, which is shown by default, and it sums up for us all the sales per product per day from the original data set. If I choose Count, Excel will show how many transactions were for each product for a particular day. Although be mindful that it does not reflect the quantity sold for the day, but rather the number of times the product's name was registered per transaction. For example, on January 1st, 9 laptops were sold through 2 separate transactions. With Count, Excel will show 2 as there were 2 entries for laptops in the dataset for January 1st. Average will show the average sale size per product per day. On the other hand, Min and Max will show the minimum and maximum sales numbers per product transaction for each day respectively. The best way to get more familiar with these options is to practice and play with them as much as possible. If you do not understand the calculations or cannot remember, you can always check the original data and see where the numbers in the pivot table are derived from. Now let's see how we can format our pivot table. For this, we have 2 options. The first option would be to format colors, borders, and fonts from the Home tab. The second option would be to use already built-in formats and designs for pivot tables that Excel comes with. I will try to go with the second option and see if I can change the format from blue to gray. For this, I will go to the Design tab and click on the Pivot Table Styles drop-down menu. As I hover my mouse over each option, Excel shows me a preview of how each style will look. I like the light gray style, so I will choose that. I can also use the simple Sort and Filter function from the Home tab to rearrange my data into ascending or descending manner. For example, I want to sort my grand total from the smallest to largest number, so I will select the range, go to the Home tab, and under Sort and Filter, click Sort Smallest to Largest. Now I can clearly see the range from worst sales to best sales during January. Another great tool that pivot tables offer is the grouping tool. Let me explain. For example, I want to see the sales numbers totals per each week instead of per each day. I can do this. In order to create weekly groups in the month of January, I first select all the dates which are in the range from A5 through A35. I then go to the Analyze tab, and under the Group section, click on Group Selection. Afterward, I select days and set the number of days to 7 as there are 7 days per week. I also unselect months from the menu. As soon as I press the OK button, Excel summarizes data into weeks, and I can now analyze my sales on a weekly basis. The last tool I want to cover in today's lesson is Slicer for pivot tables. Slicers are visual filters that provide an interactive way to filter data in pivot tables. Let's create one and see how it works. In order to create a slicer, we go to the Analyze tab, and under the Filter section, click on Insert Slicer. As the slicer menu appears, we have to choose by which field we want to create a slicer. Please note that you can have multiple slicer filters, which makes pivot tables that much more awesome. In my case, I will create only one slicer, which will be for employees. Now I can check sales data per each employee or several employees. For example, if I want to see only Ethan's performance, I will click on his name on the slicer, and Excel will show only his sales results. On the other hand, if I want to check Ethan's and Lisa's performance together, I can select only two of them by clicking on both of their names on the slicer while holding the Control keys down on my keyboard. In conclusion, in today's lesson, we've delved into advanced pivot table techniques, from analysis and customization to interactive filtering using slicers. Mastering these skills empowers efficient data analysis and informed decision-making in Excel. Stay tuned for more insights and tips in our next tutorial, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more Excel tutorials.